Palantir.
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 Palantir. Most people have no idea what this company actually does, but behind the scenes, Palantir has a plan, and it's quite smart. A plan to become completely indispensable to businesses and indeed nations around the world, embedding themselves so deeply in government departments that replacing the company becomes basically impossible. And investors are starting to wake up to this sneaky plan. In fact, in the last 12 months, Palantir's stock has quintupled. But the story goes much deeper than you think. So in this video, we're going to look into this data analysis company, what they are, who they are, and why they're running deep roots into businesses and governments around the world. So first things first, what on earth is this company? Palantir is a company that has built software designed to help large institutions, especially governments, make better decisions from their large data sets. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Palantir used its software to help the UK's National Health Service track hospital capacity, PPE supplies, and vaccine distribution all in real time. The company was originally founded in 2003 to help US intelligence agencies fight terrorism, and since then it's evolved into a very powerful data infrastructure company that serves the military, government agencies, healthcare, energy, finance, and more in both the public and private sectors. Palantir is like the operating system for real-world decision-making. Their software platforms don't just show you charts, they integrate massive, messy data, they clean it, and they connect it to real-world operations so that the people at the top can make better, more informed decisions. Now, to do this, they've built 4 software platforms. The first is Gotham. Yeah, with a name like that, you can see why this company is spoken about as being quite dark and mysterious. And the Gotham platform is designed for governments and defense. It's used by the military, intelligence agencies, and law enforcement to help detect threats, map patterns, and plan missions. For example, one well-documented instance of the US military using Gotham is during operations in Afghanistan, where it was deployed to help identify and disrupt roadside bomb networks. Intelligence analysts use Gotham to combine data from field reports, drone footage, signals intelligence, and info from local informants, and the software helped map relationships between people, locations, and events, which helped uncover hidden networks of insurgents responsible for IED attacks. In this instance, the platform proved so effective that many field commanders requested Palantir over military-issued alternatives, citing its speed, usability, and impact in saving lives. So that's Gotham, or on the military side. Then secondly, we have Foundry, which is more for commercial businesses. They describe it as the central nervous system of a business, integrating lots of internal data, we're talking supply chains, sales figures, production stats, into one platform to enable employees across the business to run models or test ideas and optimize operations. Airbus back in 2015 is a good example of Foundry's capabilities. Airbus was trying to streamline its global production process, which involved thousands of suppliers and millions of individual parts. And by integrating data from its supply chain, its factories, and its engineering teams then into Foundry, Airbus was then able to create a unified platform where all employees, whether it be factory floor workers or executives, could work on stuff in real time. And the result? Airbus accelerated A350 deliveries by 33%, enabling them to dramatically scale production without sacrificing quality or timelines. In fact, the platform works so well that Airbus partnered with Palantir to start offering this service to the rest of the airline industry. And from 50 users back in 2015, Skywise, as it's now known, has over 100 airlines and 18,000 people using it today. Independent third-party analysis estimates that the Skywise platform alone creates a revenue opportunity exceeding $850 million per annum and enables cost savings of greater than $1.7 billion per annum. So this large-scale data analysis system not only helps governments, Foundry proved it can help businesses too. Then from there, their third platform is Apollo, which is Palantir's behind-the-scenes engine that ensures their software like Gotham and Foundry and AIP, which we'll talk about, runs smoothly, securely, and continuously in any environment. It's kind of like the company's mission control. It automatically delivers software updates, security patches, and configuration changes to customers, whether they're using Palantir in the cloud, on private servers, or even in disconnected or classified environments like submarines and military bases. And then finally, Their newest platform, as I just mentioned, is AIP, launched in 2023, and it's all about bringing the power of AI and large language models into real-world decision-making. Obviously now, most companies want to use AI, but the problem is they still don't know how to safely connect powerful models like GPT-4 to their sensitive internal data. So AIP lets governments and businesses combine their private data with the best AI models, all in a secure, controlled, and auditable way. For example, a defense agency could use AIP to generate battlefield recommendations based on live data, or a manufacturing company could use it to optimize production in real time, but AIP also ensures there's easy human oversight and strict privacy controls in place. So overall, that's how Palantir has built their company, but it's when you start breaking down their financials that things get really interesting. The company listed back in 2020 through a direct listing on the New York Stock Exchange. A direct listing is quite rare and quite unlike a normal IPO because in these instances, you don't sell new shares to the public. The stock simply starts trading on an exchange, which gives existing shareholders an easier way to sell their shares, and it gives the public a chance to buy those shares. It was kind of Palantir's way of saying, we don't need Wall Street's help. And in fact, we don't really want to dilute what we've got going on here. But that seemed odd considering that in 2020, the company may have generated 1.1 billion in revenue, but on the bottom line, they lost over 1.1 billion. They were burning cash. At this point in time, Palantir had 139 customers, with 44% of their revenue coming in from business clients and 56% of their revenue coming in from, you guessed it, government contracts. This is where Palantir's strategy really comes into play. Their thesis is, if you can find a way to almost embed yourself into the very operations of a business or a government department, then you can, over time, make yourself completely indispensable. Think about the Airbus example. They provided a software solution that organized, simplified, and improved the operations of the entire company. Now, if you have a product that can do that, if you can get companies to run off of your operating system, that's a very powerful position to be in. The management of Palantir figured this out, and after listing, instead of trying to just make the most money they possibly could straight off the bat, they instead focused on trying to wiggle their way into as many businesses or government departments as they could. Over the next 4 years, Palantir quintupled their customers. They now serve 711 businesses and government agencies around the world, with some of their most notable government clients including the US Department of Defense, the CIA, US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the UK National Health Service, the FBI, NSA and DHS, and then on the business front, Airbus, BP, Merck, Microsoft, and even the Ferrari Formula One team. Palantir went full customer acquisition mode. Plant the seed in as many complex operations as you can and let your product become increasingly indispensable as the years tick on. In business, this is called a switching mode. It's a type of competitive advantage where you provide a product or service that ends up being relied upon by other businesses or governments, so much so that switching away from you is just too hard. It'll be costly to retrain staff. It'll result in a reduction in productivity. It's just not worth it. That's what Palantir are going for. And it's starting to work. While their total customers continues to rise, have a look at this metric they've reported for the last 3 years. Average years of revenue from contracts signed. In 2022, they had an average of 2.8 years of revenue locked in from their contracts. Then in 2023, that rose to 3.4 years of revenue. And now the new contracts Palantir signed in 2024 give the company an average of 3.6 years of revenue. So as they lock themselves into the very fabric of their customers' workflows, they can start to lock in longer and longer contracts, building longer term relationships with their clients. And one of the best ways to test whether you've got a true switching mode is to see whether raising prices negatively impacts your customer acquisition. But now have a look at this. Over the past 5 years, Palantir's customers have grown very consistently, but check out the average revenue they bring in from their top 20 clients. In 2020, 33.2 million. But in 2024, that number was almost double, an average of 64.6 million. So not only are they adding more and more and more customers, but their big customers are also earning them more year by year. And this emerging switching mode has really started to turn around their finances. In 2019, they lost 580 million. In 2020, the year of their listing, losses mounted to a whopping 1.17 billion. But in the last 2 years, things have really changed. In 2024, they earned $462 million, and in their most recent quarterly report, profit came in at $214 million, which annualized is $856 million. The company is starting to print cash, and the reaction from shareholders has been pretty big.
So over the past year, Palantir has done 409%.
This stock has taken the mantle as the #1 identifiable momentum stock in the market.
For guidance, the AI and data analytics company raising forecasts, all metrics above street estimates.
Palantir is probably the most highly valued enterprise software data analytics company.
I believe this is going to $1 trillion market cap in the next 2 to 3 years.
Some people say this is the GameStop of our era.
Yes, on the back of what is, genuinely impressive business growth, the stock has absolutely surged. When the company listed in 2020, they began trading around $10 per share. Now, around 5 years later, the company's stock trades at a whopping $154, a 15x. But what's remarkable is that most of that performance has been just in the last 12 months. In July 2024, the stock traded around $30, giving investors a 12-month return of over 400%. Now that is stunning performance, and it's catapulted their CEO Alex Karp into becoming a cult-like figure, but it's also opened up a lot of questions about their current valuation. At the time of recording, Palantir shares currently have a PE ratio of approximately, drumroll please, 670. Yes, based on current levels, if you bought the stock, you would be waiting for 670 years before you got your money back. And this has led to a lot of debate in the investing community as to whether this business should even be considered. But here's the thing, the believers aren't thinking about where the business and its cash flows stand today. They're thinking about where the business could be in 5 or 10 years. They think, well, this company clearly has a desirable product, they offer an invaluable service to their customers, and if they can continue adding more customers, thus widening that switching moat, then this thing, could be a rocket ship. This is very much the story of Nvidia a few years ago. When the company was growing rapidly in the early 2020s, it kind of didn't matter that you bought in at a super high P ratio because the business grew profits so much in the subsequent years. The ultra high valuation of 2020 actually looks extremely cheap today. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen to Palantir, but that's the way Palantir investors are thinking today. And the question that each investor needs to ask themselves is whether they see that happening in the future. After all, as the business stands today, it's on an $856 million annualized profit run rate, on track to deliver $1.2 billion in free cash flow this year. But at a $363 billion market cap, there'll still be a price to free cash flow of over 300. So can they continue their explosive growth phase over the next few years to justify the current price? Well, that's the million-dollar question. But also, beyond valuation, another cause for concern around Palantir is also their aggressive stock-based compensation. As the name suggests, this is where management gets paid in stock as opposed to cash, and this isn't inherently a bad thing, but it does mean that investors get diluted over time. And I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to stock-based comp, Palantir has a reputation for being particularly egregious. A simple way to look at stock-based compensation is simply as a percentage of the company's revenue. For example, Apple's stock-based compensation is roughly 2 to 3% of their revenue. Now, admittedly, Apple is a very different business to Palantir, but to give you an example of Palantir's stock-based compensation, in 2020, stock-based comp was over $1.2 billion, and incredibly, that was higher than their revenue at the time. So over 100% of revenue to stock-based comp. Now, as the years have ticked on, stock-based compensation expense has ticked down to $692 million in 2024, representing 24% of revenue. But honestly, that's still pretty darn high. And the result is investors continue to get diluted quite significantly. So overall, there are definitely some risk factors to consider from an investing point of view that need to be factored in when you look at Palantir. But overall, that is the lowdown on the company, and it's the lowdown on why you're seeing it pop up so much in the news at the current time. But overall, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. And one more thing, if you're considering coming along to that live 3-day investing workshop with myself and Phil Town in Atlanta this September, please do sign up now. Spots are filling up fast, so get in while they're still on offer. And remember to confirm your enrollment with the Rule 1 team if you have signed up already. So you'll get information in follow-up emails, but you need to send them your flight or hotel confirmation, and that will lock you in for the event, because the ticket's free, anyone can sign up for a ticket, but we need to know how many people are coming, so make sure you confirm with the Rule 1 team. But overall, apart from that, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.